Hey guys, welcome back to more HOA stories. In this video, a farmer thought he was safe from HOA drama living way out in the countryside, but these entitled board members had other plans. What started as annoying letters quickly escalated into something no one saw coming. And by the end, shots were fired and the whole neighborhood was in chaos. Let's dive right into the video. And the first story starts like this. So I own a rural farm and it's not part of any kind of HOA. I don't even know of a farm that has ever been in one. I know there's an HOA near me, but I'm well outside of its jurisdiction. Those homes are all part of a subdivision, not farms like me either. In the past, the HOA had tried to rope me in or trick me into joining an HOA I cannot even be a part of. Maybe they think farmers are dumb. I rejected every single time. I was polite back then, but after what happened in the last few weeks, that politeness went out of the window. My farm was also there before the subdivision was even developed. If anybody was an intruder, it was them, not me trying to just run a farm and make a living. I got a certified letter from the HOA claiming I didn't have a choice outside of joining. Claiming I had to follow their community standards when it came to things like my fence and my animals. They were claiming crap like the only animals allowed were pets, and if I wanted to keep my livestock, I would need to certify them as all pets. Which they aren't, as they are livestock. I sent them a letter back reminding them that I was outside of the HOA range and I didn't need to follow anything. I told them flat out that my land was legally exempt based on distance, and the fact that I was grandfathered in on top of that. I had county maps and a deed and the title to the farm and everything I could need. They had no basis to demand that I be part of their HOA, and honestly, I was mad. Not shoot them mad, but just regular mad. What they did after though was not calming me down any amount. I was getting more letters claiming that I was in violation of their rules and getting fines. Starting everything that I needed to fix to be in compliance. They had complained about my fences not being right. If they had it their way, the animals would be able to easily get out. They complained about the animals again not being registered or certified as pets, and they said that I had an illegal garden, meaning my fields where I grew crops. Again, it is my job. What really got me mad was that I noticed people from the HOA driving by my farm really slow. They were using their phones to take pictures of my house and field. It was extremely creepy and I was worried about my family. I had 2 kids and I didn't know how far these nuts were gonna go. None were worse than a guy for legal reasons I will call Frank. Frank was the most aggressive board member that passed by my house at least once per day, not just passing all the time either, but sometimes trespassing right onto the property, demanding that he had the right to inspect my land. And let me say right now that I don't know any HOA inspection that involves looking through the windows of my house. He scared my wife half to death, but I'll get back to that in a second. So Frank was a very confrontational guy, and honestly, it takes a lot of balls to be the guy to just trespass after being told not to. He would come to my door and just started banging on it. The first time my wife didn't know who it was and opened it, and Frank told her to give me a message. That if I was not to comply with the HOA, then he was to force me. I came home to her terrified. He stood over her acting all intimidating over a woman. It was my turn to send a certified letter now. I cited the times that he trespassed, and the HOA was now on written notice from me to stay the hell off of my property. I don't know how many times I can tell the same person to get lost before they get the picture. Maybe if the rest of the HOA knew, they would stop him. Either they couldn't, or more than likely they were the ones encouraging him to continue with the harassment. I found footprints one night after I was hearing some strange noises. I followed them to my barn. The door had been opened and the individual doors for the animal pens had been opened too. None escaped, thankfully, but it was clear that somebody broke in. The next day, I found an anonymous flyer in my mailbox claiming my animals were dangerous and not even being stored properly. That they were a safety risk and they were gonna report me for animal abuse and other crap. I knew Frank sent it. Now, I was reporting the HOA to the local police about the harassment, and they promised to go and speak to the HOA. It stopped the harassment for about 4 days, and then they were right back to doing the same crap to me. They did report me about the animals, and somebody from the city had to come take a look at my farm, but a walkthrough showed that they were well cared for and the barn was secure. I don't want to pretend that this entire time I was being a pleasant kind of person. I was matching the same energy that Frank was throwing out at me. I was screaming right back at him, telling him where he could shove his fines and threats. I won't lie or pretend for a second that the yelling was only one way. I will say though that I felt I was in the right doing so. If somebody yells at me and trespasses on my land, I'm going to. The day that we found him looking for the windows and my wife screamed, I reacted like a lot of people would. I ran outside and told him that if I saw him looking through my windows again, I was gonna stop him from seeing anything ever again. I did not bring my gun outside that time either, I was just fighting with words. The gun didn't come out until they actually made me feel like the safety of myself and my family were in serious danger. Frank, along with somebody else from the HOA that was even larger than he was, showed up to my farm again. They walked right up to my door again despite my warnings in the future not to do that. What I could see though is that both of them did not come empty-handed. No more fines, no more letters. The random guy was holding a damn crossbow while Frank had a baseball bat, and I found out later both had knives on them. And right away, crossbow might sound weird to some of you, but around here some people hunt, and those who are not great with it or don't have gun licenses apparently use crossbows. They also are a lot quieter when trying to hunt deer. I didn't like the idea of them facing my house, so I walked outside and tried to keep distance between us. This time I did have my gun, but it pointed down. I moved enough so they weren't facing the house anymore. I didn't even care if I got shot with a crossbow, as long as the shot was not going anywhere near my wife or my kids. And well, I warned them twice, verbally, to get off of my property. They refused, and Frank started to run towards me with the bat raised. Between his size and aggression, I made a decision. I put up my gun and shot him in the knee. He went down hard, holding his leg and screaming. The man with the crossbow dropped it, thinking I would shoot him next. If he had raised it, I would have ended up shooting him, honestly. I called 911 afterwards and the ambulance came to help. I cooperated with the police and put my gun down and answered their questions. I live in a state where it's totally legal to use force in self-defense on your property. Stand your ground laws and all that. They both get arrested for trespassing and basically just for coming onto my property with the intent to hurt me. Frank was taken to the hospital and he probably won't walk without a limb for the rest of his life. What happened started to spread through the community, and this is the part that a lot of people are divided on. Some claim that I went too far and I should have called the police and just let them handle it. That discharging my weapon and taking out a guy's knee was unnecessary. Some are calling me a psycho and that maybe I was just looking for some excuse to hurt a person. Others think that what I did was totally fine since I was being threatened. Some people knew that the HOA was a little crazy, and I feel like those were the ones that don't blame me for what I did. Plus, I don't think I did anything wrong, especially since what I did was legal. If it was so wrong, then shouldn't I have also been arrested and charged? The board had a lot of problems and lawsuits after that from members, and this was also my fault in a way, apparently. While all this was going on, I started poking around a bit myself. I checked public records and talked to a few of the other homeowners, and what I found made my blood boil. The board had been siphoning HOA funds for years, paying themselves for fake consulting fees, billing for landscaping projects that never even happened, and generally just padding their pockets. I shared what I uncovered with the neighbors who were already suing the HOA, and the lawyers ran with it. Before long, the whole thing was in the local paper and the board's misconduct was out in the open for everyone to see. People were even blaming me as the cause for the entire board and the entire neighborhood falling apart. The board all had to step down and the entire thing was restructured. It was fine now for me, as far as the HOA harassment was concerned anyhow. I thought that when the men went to prison, I would be seen in a better light from the people around me. But instead, I was now being told that I got 2 people sent to prison because I didn't know how to use my words. This is a pretty religious area, and I feel like that needs to be mentioned in this story. A lot of people think using a gun in general on another person is wrong, and my kids were being told that their father is a devil worshipper. Going to church is hard now with how people look at me. That said, once the new HOA board took over and the dust settled, things finally started to calm down. The harassment stopped completely and nobody has trespassed since, and most of the neighbors have moved on. My kids are not being hassled anymore and my wife and I can finally enjoy the farm in peace. For the first time in years it actually feels like life around here is, well, fine. I won't deny that I could have handled some of the things better. I couldn't have lost my temper and gotten so verbally aggressive. I could have stayed in the house and called the police. Yeah, I could have taken action if I was attacked outside of shooting a man in the knee. Anyway though, am I the a-hole for defending my property and family, even if that meant shooting a man? And yeah guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP was the a-hole for defending his property or not? I am very curious what you have to say, and while you're at it, please don't forget to like the video, because that would help me tremendously. Comment number 1 said, everyone sucks here, but you suck the least. Look, Frank and the HOA were absolutely insane. Coming onto your property with weapons, terrorizing your wife, breaking into your barn, that's completely unhinged behavior that deserved some consequences. But, and this is a big but, you escalated things unnecessarily throughout this whole ordeal. You admitted you were screaming right back and matching the same energy. You threatened him about never seeing anything again. That's not de-escalation, that is actually pouring gasoline on a fire. When they showed up with weapons, you had options. You could have stayed inside, called 911 immediately, and let them know armed trespassers were on your property. Instead, you went outside to confront armed individuals. That was incredibly stupid and put your family at more risk, not less. That said though, once you were outside and Frank charged you with a bat while his buddy had a crossbow, you were in immediate danger and had every right to defend yourself. The knee shot probably saved lives. Frank and the HOA are bigger a-holes for the months of harassment, trespassing and finally showing up armed. However, you made several poor choices that escalated the situation when you could have taken the high road. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, and anyone saying otherwise has never dealt with real harassment or lived in a rural area. This was not some neighbor dispute over fence height. This was months of escalating harassment, trespassing, breaking into your barn and terrorizing your wife. And they responded by showing up to your home with a crossbow and baseball bat. Frank charged you with the bat raised. That is attempted assault with a deadly weapon on your own property. Everyone saying just call the police? Seriously? You think police response time in rural areas is fast enough when someone is charging you with a bat? You think they would have just stood there politely waiting for police while holding weapons on your property? You gave them multiple verbal warnings to leave. You tried to position yourself away from your house to protect your family. Also, you only fired when directly charged by an armed aggressor on your own land. The knee shot shows incredible restraint. Most people would have aimed center mass. And yeah guys, if someone trespassed on your property with weapons with the intent to harm you, would you have also shot them? Let me know what you think in the comments. Comment number 3 said, you're the a-hole and I'm honestly disturbed by how many people are defending you. Look, I get that the HOA was being annoying, but you turned what could have been handled through proper legal channels into a damn shooting. You keep saying you tried everything, but did you actually get a lawyer? Did you file for a restraining order? Did you install security cameras to document the trespassing? Because from your story, it sounds like you went straight to angry confrontations and threats. You literally threatened to make Frank never see anything ever again, and you're surprised that he showed up prepared for a fight? You escalated this at every single turn. Normal people don't get into screaming matches with HOA members. They document everything and let lawyers handle it. And the final confrontation? Jesus Christ, dude. They were standing on your property being idiots with weapons, so your brilliant solution was to go outside and confront them while armed. When you had a house you could have stayed in and called 911 from, you created the dangerous situation that you then used to justify shooting someone. Your poor wife is probably traumatized watching her husband turn into some kind of vigilante over what started as a neighbor dispute. Your kids now have to live with everyone knowing their dad shot someone. Was your ego really worth permanently disabling a man and traumatizing your family? The fact that Frank was being a jackass doesn't give you the right to play judge, jury and executioner on your front lawn. This whole thing screams of someone who's been fantasizing about using their gun and finally found an excuse. Anyway, the next one is titled, My SO used the police to abuse me. I honestly don't know what happened. A couple of days ago, my girlfriend, who I lived with, left our apartment while I was at work, claimed to her family and mutual friends that I'd been physically abusing her and blocked me on everything. I've no idea what's going on. There weren't any major problems in our relationship that I could see, and we just had consensual sex last night. The very last time I spoke to her before all of this happened, she was perfectly fine, kissed me goodbye before I went to work and everything was normal. Then I got a call from my dad towards the end of the day asking me calmly if I've been hitting my girlfriend. I didn't know what he was talking about, and then she told me. I rushed home and she had gotten all of her stuff and is staying either with her family or a friend of hers. My Facebook account is blowing up and I have no idea what to do. None of what is being said is true and I don't know if people are just playing a cruel joke on me. A few people even mentioned that the police were called, but I haven't heard anything as of yet. The last major argument we had was probably in February around Valentine's Day. We were going through some financial trouble, the stress got to us and we were both getting upset with each other over petty household things. She was my best friend, the person I could rely on to be there for me and the person I would be there for always. No matter what, we were definitely planning on getting married. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. Her family had basically accepted me into the family and I was close with both her mom and her dad. I only called them both once each, neither of them answered my calls. I called my, ex just twice, no answer. She blocked me on every social media platform of hers that I know of. I asked a couple of friends, but they are being distant with me. Just one-word answers or ghosting me. What the hell is happening here? We'd always been upfront and honest with each other and our communication was stellar. And now some comments from Reddit. Question: what was your reaction to this? Answer from OP: confusion and then panic. My heart started pounding. At first it was difficult to think. I wanted to try and call her to see what the hell was going on, when I found out she blocked me on everything. I've been walking around with a huge pit in my stomach. Another question: how has your family and your friends reacted to this? As in, how did the conversation with your father go? Did he believe you? What about your best male friend? Answer: my dad calmly asked me if I've been hitting her. I outright denied it. He said, "Are you sure?" That made me upset. Only a couple of friends reached out. Most are sort of staying out of it. I had two friends say, "What the F were you thinking?" before I tried to explain it to them. Over the past few hours, they seemed to warm up, but I don't know. Other friends haven't really been saying anything, just being distant or not responding much at all. I don't really have a best friend, but the one person I would closest describe as such seems to believe me. Just said, "This is really effed up." Another question from the audience: do you or your girlfriend have a history of mental illness? Answer: I don't. As for her, not that I know of. I'm close with her family and I know a lot about her childhood. Serious mental illness sounds like a big thing to cover up. We are both culturally American. Her family is Hispanic though, but have been in the US for 3 generations now. Update. Okay, so this is gonna be a weird update. I'm sorry if you guys thought this was going to be anything interesting. A friend came forward and told me that apparently my dumbass fiancé decided to play a prank on me. She had the bright idea of leaving the house for a couple of days to set up a surprise birthday party for me and set for this weekend. I don't know what the F she was thinking, nor do I even really know the full story yet. She's not really the prank playing type and I guess thought this would be hilarious or something. It looks like a majority of those friends who were acting distant were in on it. After I started being upfront and honest with showing people my texts with her as this sub suggested, one of them told her that this was not cool and that if she did not come clean, then he would. Well, she didn't come clean and he came forward. I guess that's why nobody was answering their texts. Anyway, I texted her and I told her that I knew I asked her what the F she was thinking. She started blowing my phone up apologizing and she said her prank just went too far and spiraled out of control when it got to social media and that she did not know how to come clean when she realized that it crossed the line. She also said that she didn't mean to let it come out that I was abusing her, that she just wanted to make it seem like she left me and that the abuse stuff was a rumor started by some other people who were not in on her joke. I just did not really respond to her. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, this woman really deserves an award for probably the worst prank of all time. Who the hell thinks that this was a good idea? Honestly, OP's SO is a complete idiot. Anyway, I left and went to my parents' house before she got back home. My family now thinks that she is a damn moron, so her relationship with them is ruined right before our marriage. So that's great. Our mutual friends are now split in half, with half of them thinking she's an idiot and the other half feeling God knows what about the situation. I am frankly embarrassed and feel stupid for wasting everyone's time and dragging them into my relationship with my fiancé. I don't really know where to go from here. I don't know if I should call off the wedding or postpone it and try to work it out what the hell went through her mind. I'm sorry if this is not the ending to the story you were all hoping for. I'm just having drinks here and will be here all night feeling sorry for myself and answering comments. Update number 2. So I wanna apologize for the bluntness of this post ahead of time, because despite your comments about me being calm and level-headed, I'm actually quite upset about the entire situation, and I feel like me sitting and thinking about it is only marinating this anger and making it more juicy and flavorful. Another update, I spoke to her in person after I posted my update. From her perspective, her original idea was to make it look like she just got mad or something, grabbed a few things and left to her friend's house where she was going to have the party thrown. Her friend has a really nice house that's perfect for a 20 to 30 person get together. She was with her 2 friends and made an off-the-cuff remark when her friend said, "What are you gonna say when he asks why?" And she said, "I don't know, I'll probably tell him that I feel like he got too serious when we had sex," or something like that. Then her other friend who was with her immediately took it to social media without the other 2 girls knowing, and then when they checked their phones later on that day, it was already a dumpster fire. I said, great, all that is understandable, just one question, why did you then block me and then refuse to answer my calls, because that seemed pretty intentional to me. She said because she didn't want to throw her idiot friend under the bus and thought it would all go away if she just threw the party, and she hadn't realized how far it all went so quickly. I thanked her for telling me, and then I called off the wedding entirely. She cried, I cried, it was a damn mess. She asked where we go from here. I told her I don't know, I don't even know if the relationship is over yet, but I know that the engagement is over, and that if I decide to give it another chance at the bare minimum, we need to build my trust for her from the ground up, if not the entire relationship. And now I have to decide if I want that. Do I want to spend another 4 years being undecided? If I'm being honest with myself, I imagine it taking another couple of years before I can trust her again. Do I want to get married and start thinking about having kids at 35, 36, close to 40? I told her that I have a lot to think about. I spoke to her dad last night, we shared a case of beers and had a conversation that lasted about 5 hours. My ex has not spoken to anyone and has basically been locked up in her old bedroom for now. She's been crying a lot. I do believe that she's genuinely remorseful about all of this, which complicates things. Her dad caught wind of the situation on Facebook but learned what was really going on maybe like an hour later. He'd gotten my calls but hadn't returned them because he called his daughter first. She told him and he just did not know what to say to her. He told me that she's not truly stupid, but yet she has a history of sometimes not thinking about things before she says them, and the impact her offhand remarks can have. He said this is the worst it's ever snowballed, but she's had situations in the past where she says something stupid or insulting and does not realize the impact of what she said until hours later when the other person blows up over it. So that's it, I still have a lot to think about. I know a lot of you guys are telling me that I have no balls for not literally tossing her out into traffic and laughing about it or something weird like that, but you have to understand that I still love her and have loved her for a few years now. Right now though, I'm leaning towards moving on, but you're going to have to empathize with me here. As for my reputation, nobody thinks I'm an abuser, it's firmly out there now. Her reputation though took a much more significant and lasting hit. I have not lost any friends except for the idiot social media girl whose reputation also took a severe hit. Nobody called the cops, all the other posts about it have been deleted, everything is good. There's no real need for me to get a lawyer and sue anybody. My family agrees with a lot of you. They are 2 seconds away from slapping me upside my head for not immediately kicking her to the curb. Just give me some time. I'm not gonna make another update because I've already wasted too much of your time with this. And yeah, Ripe Stars, there have been no further updates to this story, but I would love to hear from you what you think about this story. Do you think OP did the right thing here or not? In my opinion, if I would be in OP's shoes, I would definitely not stay together with this person. And of course, I can understand it's hard to call it quits after you've been in a relationship for this long, but honestly, I could not trust this woman anymore. Anyone who does such a stupid joke is completely untrustworthy for me. And it's also not even just a bad joke, it basically shits on anyone who's ever had to deal with domestic abuse and didn't get the help they needed. OP's SO is clearly immature and maybe just stupid. Either way, I would definitely not stay together with this person. Let me know what you think in the comments. And yeah guys, if you cannot get enough of my content, please don't forget to check out my podcast by searching for Ripe Stories on all major podcast platforms such as Spotify, Apple or Google Podcasts. Furthermore, you can find bonus content by going to patreon.com/ripeyoutube or by clicking the join button here on YouTube. For a small monthly fee, you will get access to dozens and dozens of exclusive videos you won't find anywhere else. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again again tomorrow. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. The issue with having a good HOA is that at any point it can drastically shift when an insane tyrant decides to take control. I've been in the same home for over a decade, and aside from the fees that I paid, I never heard a peep from the HOA about anything. I'm far from a perfect human being or homeowner. Sometimes my trash bins stay out for a couple of days if I get busy, or a spot on my lawn does not get watered right and ends up a little patchy. None of these things that I or any old HOA considered to be problematic. Then the tyrant showed up and started handing out HOA fines like they were candy. I was annoyed but couldn't do anything about the ones that technically violated actual rules, like leaving my bins out. But this new HOA regime seemed to want complete uniformity and perfection that no human being could actually accomplish. And more importantly, was nowhere to be found in the guidelines. I was doing exactly what I had to do and not lifting a finger for anything extra. The fines I got that were not fair went into a folder and just went unpaid, with me telling them that I was not gonna pay a fine unless it actually had me in violation of an actual bylaw. Sadly, I think that most people don't know what the rules fully are or how to get a hold of them, and were paying fines blindly, taking advantage of people that just didn't seem to know better in order to line their pockets. I did not hear anything from them about the fines I didn't pay and assumed they just accepted that I was smart and gave up on them. Instead, they went to the local police and told them about me having a ton of unpaid fines as well as a bunch of other lies. They told the police that my home was filled with various weapons and drugs that I was trying to push and sell to the kids in the neighborhood. I did not know any of this until about 3 AM one day when there was a knock on the door from the police. Later I found out that these were police bounty hunters because another lie they told was that I was harboring a criminal in my house. Now for reference, the members of my home are myself, my 87-year-old mom, my wife and my 4-year-old child. When I opened the door, I had guns pointed in my face and was being screamed at and handcuffed. I was too stunned to even speak as I was dragged out and placed on my lawn face down. I did manage to see them going into my home and tried to ask them if they had a warrant to even search my house. I was ignored though, and when I tried to ask again, promptly told to shut up and shoved further into the ground. They dragged my entire family out of the house and put all the adults in handcuffs, and yes, they put an old lady in handcuffs and forced her to sit on the curb outside in her nightgown. And this was winter, so it was really cold outside. From all the screaming and everybody being taken outside, my 4-year-old son was hysterical. He had no idea what was actually going on and just wanted his mom to hold him. A mom that couldn't do anything because she was handcuffed. We sat outside for about 2 hours as they tore the entire place apart, looking for things and questioning us about a person we never heard of and asking where he was. I told him that nobody else lived at the house and I didn't know who they were even talking about. After another hour, we were finally let go after it was decided that we did not know anything. I went into the house and found it just totally wrecked. Every drawer and cabinet had been turned inside out and emptied onto the floor. The couch had a knife taken to it. My guess is they were looking for hidden drugs. I'd never seen such a big mess in my life, and we were in no condition to clean it up. Our wrists were sore and we were freezing and exhausted from being up all night. After a couple of days of reflection, I realized that the actions the police took and the lies the HOA told should not just be allowed to happen. We were traumatized and our home got destroyed because the new HOA president figured if they scared me, I would just go and pay the fines to them. And the reason I knew it had to do with them is because they contacted me the next day. Nothing specific was said, but he made vague threats about me paying my fines or they would call the police again, telling me that the neighborhood can only be safe if we all do our part, and finally that I would not be acting so suspicious if I had nothing to hide. I guess to him not paying unfair fines was considered suspicious behavior. I don't understand this guy, and I doubt anybody reading this will be able to make sense of him either. Suing a person was a concept I understood, but suing an entity like the city or the police department or the HOA was a little bit more confusing to me. Rightfully so, because our lawyer spoke to us for hours about why it was complicated and how they usually just try to use money to make things go away. I told him that I didn't want a settlement, I wanted justice to be done to avoid this happening to another family. I was also suing the HOA for slander against me that caused the police to raid my house in the first place. I wanted to sue them for like misusing the police or something, but I learned that is not something in my power. After my case, if the DA was interested in the HOA president, they would make their own criminal case. It was all very complicated and I hated every minute I had to meet with the lawyers and try to absorb what they were talking about. I'll start with the HOA case because it was a little less complicated. The HOA president was forced by the judge to hand over any police statements they had, all of them about my house and the lies they told, in order to get the police involved in this. When asked about the basis for this, he didn't have anything to say. He never saw me with weapons or drugs, and I argued with my folder of fines that he wanted to just get me back for not paying a ton of fines for rules that didn't even exist. It was clear that he was guilty of slander and intentionally telling lies in order to get the police to come and raid my home. He was gonna have to step down from his position in the HOA as just a start. There was gonna be a thorough investigation into the fines that people paid and which of them were illegitimate. Also looking into his bank statements, because something this shady usually meant that somebody was lining their own pockets with the money. As for the city and police department, I was suing them for mistreatment and my home being entered without a warrant. That of course also applied to the bounty hunters that were working with the HOA and in close connection with the police department. It was only to look into the rooms to see if the person who they were searching for was there. Body cam footage showing them dragging us outside and putting us in cuffs while we were just confused showed excessive force being used. I got to see how they went through my home, destroying everything in their path, and it was horrible to watch. We were treated like criminals with no basis to the claims they were given. I don't know the protocol they are meant to use, just in this state they did not follow it correctly. My lawyer was right that before going to court, the city wanted to try and just give me money to make the entire thing go away. It was honestly tempting, but I knew that the judge would probably grant me something similar, plus have the mistreatment on record if we won. I didn't just want to let them get away with this and have money to be a get out of jail free card. Clearly the city was gonna have to pay me a good amount in retribution. This being for things they destroyed in my home, as well as the emotional trauma we went through because of it. My mother especially was never really the same after that night. If there's one thing nobody wants to see in court, it was an old lady being rough-handled and forced to sit in the cold for hours. It was also the thing that might have made me the most angry about the entire situation. The only thing that could have made me even angrier is if they tried to put my kid in handcuffs too, which I'm glad they had enough common sense to not try and instead just let him stand next to us the entire time. Money was not the only thing, because the bounty hunters and cops were in trouble for basically breaking the law in how they handle things. Police are hard to get fired, and I was expecting them to just get off with something light. They got suspended, which I'm not thrilled about, but at least it was something. The two bounty hunters meanwhile lost their licenses. They had apparently abused the system, so they were no longer allowed to be a part of it. Some might feel bad that two guys lost their jobs, but honestly, if somebody has a job requiring them to carry around a semi-automatic weapon and don't follow the rules, they should lose it in my opinion. It took over a year to have everything sorted out, and even longer before I felt comfortable enough to sit down and write this entire thing out. I'm just glad the HOA president is now gone and there have been no further incidents. I learned that if I get another HOA president like that guy, I'm going to just report them to the city the moment they start handing out fake fines. I don't want to ever go through what I did again if I can help it. And before we end the video, let's read one last funny story from r/pettyrevenge. This one is titled, "She Never Hit Me Again." So this happened when I was 8 or 9. For context, I'm in my 40s now. When/where I was growing up, physical discipline was not just a norm, but a moral imperative if you were to be considered a good parent. My parents both worked long hours, and I was often left home with my grandma. Parenting responsibilities often fell to her, or so she seemed to think. One of her favorite methods of discipline was to have me go pick out a wooden spoon from the kitchen drawer, hand it to her, hold out a palm, and wait for her to smack it. And she never went easy. Well, one day, she accused me of breaking a little glass garden. It was just this small glass enclosure with some nicely arranged rocks, water, and moss inside. It was a gift from my mom to my dad. He liked these kind of things, and to this day, I have no idea how I broke it. I told her I didn't do it, she accused me of lying, I got lippy, and sure enough, go get a spoon. Well, I had learned by now that the small spoons stung more, the big ones spread out their impact more evenly, and also went slower. Besides, if I choose too small of a spoon, Grandma would hit much harder, as if to tell me that I was not ever gonna get away with it. But today, I was angry, I went to the kitchen and picked out the thinnest spoon I could find. I held it at each end, pushed my knee into the middle and cracked it. Then I fit the wooden splinters together as best I could before going back into the next room and handing her the sabotaged spoon. She did not notice, and it didn't help that her glasses were as thick as her thumbs. She did notice it was a thin spoon, however. She also noticed the dirty look I gave her. The first time I'd ever be dared to be so brazen. She saw red. She took a mighty swing and the spoon broke in half. I put on an Oscar-worthy performance, wailing at the top of my lungs. I ran to my room and stayed there. She did not chase me. Later, when my parents got home, I overheard her, distraught, telling them, "I had no idea I'd hit him that hard. I didn't know what came over me. I'm so sorry. Christ have mercy." And well, that was the last time I ever got the wooden spoon, and also the last time she ever hit me, full stop. Although I overheard her apologize to my parents, she never apologized to me, so I let her feel guilty about that for the rest of her life, never telling her what I had done. It would be another 30 years before I would finally tell my own parents this, my earliest and longest held secret. Love ya, Grandma. And yeah guys, thank you for watching. I will see you again tomorrow.